All right, we are back with Wakas Ahmed. Thank you for coming back, Wakas.
Thanks,
What a
Justin.
what a month and a half it's been, eh?
Yeah, crazy.
So I mean, you know, I don't know. I suppose there may still be people out there who are gonna try to argue that it wasn't a coup, but who cares? We don't have to. We've been there and done that. Let's say, but let's just start because there have been a momentous events. So let's just start with from our last conversation because immediately after the change of government, aka the coup, the new government made a whole bunch of moves of various kinds on various legislative and other areas. So can why don't we start with that? Like what kinds of things did they do right away?
Yeah, there a couple of days ago, there were two major bills passed in the National Assembly, and they were related to elections and removing moving the powers of NAB, the National Accountability Bureau, which is basically the government institution charged with probing the corruption of these very politicians who changed the rules. So
Right,
these
right.
were the two major things that they had kept saying even from the start, that they wanted electoral reforms, number one, and number two, they wanted changes in the NAV, which everyone was afraid of. So the current prime minister has cases pending against him,
Mhm.
and these cases are really simple, really straightforward, white and black cases. Basically, their servants, like the really low level staff in their factories, had billions of rupees in their bank accounts.
Mhm.
So one of Shehbaz Sharif's low level employee had, unbeknownst to him, billions of rupees in his bank account. And these were found by the FIA, and the NAB was supposed to prosecute them. All of these things uh, have to be fixed. So this government really wanted these cases removed. They also wanted people who have been convicted in the past to be able to contest election as soon as possible. So there are some people who have been convicted in the past, like the former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. They want him back to be soon in the political arena. And they want, like Yusuf Reza Gilani has been convicted in the past, they want him back in
These seem
politics.
like strange rules to change.
Yeah, yeah.
If all
Nobody in a normal country would accept that we're removing that we're giving a 5-year limit for a convict to run elections again. Okay, a convict can run elections after 5. Are you crazy? Convict can't even vote here. So this is like outrageous, and this keeps happening. There's this pattern to it. Everything that happens is more outrageous than the last thing, and you're like, how is this allowed to happen? But who is allowing these things to happen? And this is a philosophical question. Is there like a god? Because on earth nobody is doing anything.
No, but
We have the courts, and we have all the institutions that Pakistanis are supposed to respect, but all of these robberies are happening under their noses. So who is there who's supposed
like
to?
if there's a constitutional removal of a prime minister based on a no confidence vote, one would think that the next thing to do is simply to get on with organizing an election under the status quo,
No,
situation.
they're not going to do that. So what it happens is, let's go back to April 9th, right? And that's around the time when we talked, the coup happened and they removed Imran Khan. At that time, Justin, I wasn't really that hopeful. I didn't know what was going to happen.
Mhm.
Something really weird happened in Pakistan. So many people came out, and there was a huge outpour of support for Imran Khan. Even Imran Khan did not anticipate that. And we can go into reasons why that happened, but there was massive protests in
It was like the
Pakistan.
biggest rallies in the history of the
In the
country.
history of the country. On the night of April 9th, even Imran Khan did not know. He was sleeping in his house at Gala. He did not know how many people came out that night spontaneously. That Sunday night, some people I have talked to call that a miracle.
Mhm.
This is a sentiment Imran Khan has somehow fallen into Imran Khan's lap. Even he does not own this. This is a gap that exists because people want their voice to be heard, and nobody is hearing their voices. And they think maybe Imran Khan is, and that might be their misconception or their naive, but we
Right.
don't know that, right? But this happened. All of this happened. All of this was real. This outpour of support was real. And when that started happening, Imran Khan thought that he might be able to come back in the game. Immediately afterwards, the new government that formed inherited something from Imran Khan, which was oil subsidies. So the government was paying a huge amount of subsidy every day for the petrol and diesel that was sold on the streets in Pakistan.
Mhm.
And that subsidy had to be stopped. And this was an unpopular decision to stop that
Of
subsidy.
course.
And this government that had basically usurped power from Imran Khan did not have the political capital to make this decision. And they have still, right now they have increased the prices a bit, but they're still not able to do that. That was the governing that this government was supposed to do. Instead, they have made these legislative changes, like it also like removing my power. So right now I am not in Pakistan. I am, so therefore I am not allowed to vote in Pakistan. They have
Hmm.
taken my power to vote. They have disenfranchised me.
Yeah, I mean that's
uh,
such a normal thing in the US or Canada that there would be during an election people voting at the consulate
Yeah,
or
at
at
the
the
consulate.
embassy.
This was allowed in the previous government. This government just passed the legislation that will stop that from happening. So I cannot go to my consulate to cast my vote just
Which
because
is
I'm here to
also
stay.
like a very insecure thing, right? Because it's such a small number of people that it
No,
wouldn't be. It's not.
they're rightfully insecure. They're right about that.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. I'll
Yeah.
tell you the numbers. In some crucial seats, this one guy, Salman, he has compiled list. Salman, I'll mention his name again. I don't remember his username right now, but he's doing great work on overseas Pakistanis' right to vote. He
Mm.
has compiled list of constituencies and all the data about how many percentage overseas voters can change, and those
Oh.
percentages are big enough to make to change the outcome of whole election.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
this is a significant, like so many people have been leaving Pakistan to work, right? Because
Mhm.
Pakistan does not have enough job. There are so many laborers in Saudi
In the
Arabia, in
Gulf, of
UAE,
course.
in the
Yeah.
Gulf. There's a huge population. And if they get the right to vote, this government fears that, and they rightfully fear that because they will vote for Imran Khan, because Imran Khan has not been trying to disenfranchise them. These people have been. So of course they will make the logical decision and vote against them. And they're afraid of that. That is why they've
Right.
stopped their power to do so. So these are the laws that the government has passed, the governing that they were supposed to do. They haven't done so. And they've passed these evil laws
So
to secure their power.
so what about was everything forgiven? I mean, the famous quote that if Imran Khan goes, all will be forgiven. So does that seem to have been?
Well, there are no sanctions against Pakistan, and Pakistan, Mr. Bilawal Zardari, or new foreign minister, uh, who's also an intern at the Foreign Office, has been meeting all of these world leaders, and everything has been going fine.
So it looks like that part was fulfilled.
Yeah, but IMF
They've
still
achieved.
has refused to give us the money, and some of our best friends have still refused to give us money. Like Saudi Arabia has not released any money for us, and UAE has not given us anything, and China has also not given any money. So there is no money coming in. I don't know how what was not supposed to be forgiven. Imran Khan has constantly been saying that he could have reduced the price of oil by buying cheap oil from Russia,
Right.
which
That was
resonates and which seems to be true.
yeah. I mean, Sri Lanka is getting
Buying
some.
cheaper oil from Russia,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's
So
Russia's set up
yesterday,
this thing
Ifta
now.
Ismail, or so like our foreign minister on paper, basically he said that we are not getting oil from Russia because there are sanctions. I don't know which sanctions are stopping Pakistan from buying oil from Russia, because India did that and Sri Lanka did that, but he went on CNN and said that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So the oil issue, the IMF. So the IMF, they went back to the IMF to make a
Yeah.
deal, but they didn't get a deal.
They haven't gotten the deal because they haven't removed the oil subsidy in Pakistan. IMF has a condition that they say that if you want to take money from us, stop wasting it on giving cheap oil to your population, oil that you cannot afford to give for cheap. So stop giving that subsidy. And removing that subsidy is not an economic decision, it's a political decision. So if Ismail, who's the finance minister, cannot make that decision is supposed to be made by Shehbaz Sharif. And Shehbaz Sharif knows that if he removes this subsidy completely, he will get unpopular. He does not have the popular capital that he is going to spend to do that.
Yeah, and to give, you have to, if you're going to do that, you have to invest somewhere else. You have to make sure that you compensate.
Yeah, and this is a last year for elections. Like, this is an election year. So if you make brave decisions like this in the election year, you're going to suffer. So all the bad decisions that Imran Khan's government did fell into lap of these people who have taken the power, as well as the responsibility of the failures of the previous government somehow. So this is a thing that they did not also anticipate.
Yeah. So, okay. So the rallies, the biggest rallies ever, and they culminate in a call for a big march last week, the long march. So can you talk about let's talk about the long march. Let's talk about the big march.
Yeah, so Imran Khan has been, he has one-point agenda. He wants elections as soon as possible. This government does not want elections because they want to rig it first, and they're not really confident about having elections. So Imran Khan called a big march towards Islamabad. The goal was to shut down Islamabad and to force the government or force institutions to call for new, fresh elections. A few days before the rally was supposed to be started, Punjab police started, and Sindh police also started, raiding different political homes of political activists without warrants. This was like Gestapo. And this night, they were knocking on doors. They were not just knocking, they were climbing walls and entering them. There was one PTI leader who is a retired major. They climbed his wall and he shot a policeman, and the policeman died, and he is now in jail. But in this night, in one single night, they conducted over 4,000 raids and arrested over 1,000 PTI activists. So it was huge. And they arrested all of the second-tier leadership, and they made it impossible for PTI to come out. And even those pockets that did come out in Lahore and in Islamabad, that managed bravely to reach them. And there was a contingent with Imran Khan that came from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, where these people do not have a government. There's still a PTI government, where PTI is using it as its base right now. So there came like thousands of workers from that, and they managed to still reach Islamabad. And in Islamabad, there was unprecedented shelling at these people, like with tear gas, and they were beaten by like crazy police brutality that happened. They were beaten, arrested. Even PTI leaders, like former MNAs, were really beaten badly. This is how the government was handling with this situation. And if finally the government called in the Pakistan Rangers, which is army in the aid of civil power, to protect the red zone in Islamabad. I think at around this time, Imran Khan decided to call off the protest because there was fear that people might get killed. And there was also this agreement that Imran Khan had with the Supreme Court that they would not go beyond a certain point. So they pulled back. Now, I don't know how what Imran Khan is seeing this situation as developing, but he said that he will wait for 6 days and for the government to announce elections. And if elections don't happen, he'll come march again. The opposition has started, like the current government has started threatening Imran Khan again. Rana Sanaullah, the interior minister, who has been known to kill protesters in the past. Like he killed 14 protesters in his past tenure, including a pregnant woman and her unborn child. He's a ruthless person. So this person has started threatening PTI again, and I don't know how the
Yeah.
next march will go.
So
There,
there was
there
a
might be
tweet.
bloodshed.
There was a tweet from Rana Sanaullah Khan
Yeah.
yesterday. I am warning PTI against the announcement of another long march. One thing I want to illustrate: as soon as the long march is announced, let them come and I'll see how they cross barriers this time.
Yeah, this is the Interior Minister of Pakistan. He has killed protesters in the past, and he does not care about law. He was the law minister of Punjab previously, funnily enough. But this is how the situation is developing. If Imran Khan goes for protests, there might be bloodshed because the government does not want any threat to its power. They have gotten this power after, a lot of struggle, and they don't want to lose it this easily. That is why they're willing to spend public money on giving these oil subsidies for extended periods of time.
So a combination of oil subsidy and maybe a new deal with the IMF if they can.
No, they'll eventually have to increase the price of oil. IMF will give them money. They will manage to do that. If they manage to do that, they'll get some money from Saudi Arabia, some from UAE, and then they'll probably be able to last till next elections. I don't know what happens.
They'll try to delay as long as they can. And what's happening? I also saw on your feed some stuff about the Electoral Commission.
This is one of the plans of this government. So they are trying voter suppression at this time at unprecedented levels. And I did discuss that in the last interview with you. This is what they were going to do. They are going to try voter suppression and gerrymandering. So in Pakistan, to find out how your election, where your polling station is, you send your national ID number to a certain, you send an SMS to a certain number 8300, and you get your polling station ID and everything. A few months ago, people were checking this because of the political chaos, and they were getting the same results that they have been getting in 2013 and 18 elections. They just checked now, and most of the people I talked to, their polling stations have changed far away from their houses. So this is classic voter suppression that they are doing now. Secondly, they're probably also because their polling stations are being changed. So they're probably being changed for a reason also. So there's probably gerrymandering involved on some layer. And against this level of forces, people are really helpless. If they're ensuring that people don't go out to vote, they can easily steal these elections, no matter how protective people are of their individual votes.
So I guess from the Imran Khan kind of perspective, the sooner the better, because the more time you give them to set this up, the more they'll be able to lock it out.
But Imran Khan does not, still now has not been aggressive enough to force this. Because all of these things that are happening are outrageous. Imagine these things happening to you in your country, imagine voter suppression at this level, where overnight your vote is sent to another town across the city. This will ensure that votes are stolen. And imagine disenfranchisement of a population to a level where the whole election can be stolen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of there was a few elections in Mexico where the left-wing party won a clear victory in the 80s, and the Electoral Commission went into the room and came out and said, and the right-wing party wins again. and the Cardenas was the guy. He had a big rally and he basically said, okay, everybody go home now. So he just kind of called it off. He sort of accepted the theft. And
so if Imran Khan accepts the theft, then people might get disillusioned from him too. Imran Khan might think just like many people before him, that this support is because of Imran Khan.
Mhm.
He might miss the real, the real reason why people support him, which is that they have been denied their voice for so long, and
Yeah.
they're desperate for anyone, even someone who's not good enough to be that voice. When Imran Khan compromises on those basics, then people might move on from him too.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So but they don't have anybody to move on to, really.
They don't have anybody right now. There's nobody to move on to. This is the sad part in Pakistan. Maybe they'll build something.
Yeah. So it's, I mean, what else can we add to this? Because it seems like, uh, kind of an explosive situation. But I could also see it fizzling out. Like I could see Imran saying, all right, everybody go home. We don't want to have a
If
civil war
Imran Khan
here.
does this, it will be a great betrayal to Pakistani people. And the kind of situation that I see developing in Pakistan is everyday things happen that are unacceptable to a normal, decent, self-respecting human being, and they will push people to a tipping point where revolutions come from.
Mhm.
There has to be something to ease that pressure, because this is like going really across that tipping point.
The government today does seem to be like have that unique kind of cluelessness that leads to that kind of thing. Like they
Yes, they
don't
do
seem to
have that.
be.
They're all disconnected.
Yeah.
Take the foreign minister of Pakistan. He's like younger than both of us. He hasn't done any job in his life. He's like flying around from one country to another. While the current finance minister of Pakistan today has said that only rich people buy petrol and diesel.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't know. This is
So the
worse
whole
than let
basis
them eat.
of the whole
uh,
basis of the entire global economy apparently is just a thing
Rich
rich
people's
people
thing.
buy. I
Yeah.
see.
In Pakistan, only rich people can now afford petrol and diesel. That's another thing. But this is the situation. They're so clueless, so disconnected from reality, so disconnected from people's sentiments that did not anticipate, including Imran Khan, what happened on the night of April 9th. Uh, this,
So as far as we see, like the march and everything and all the repression, that was about a week ago now, right?
yeah, 25th
And
April.
and so there hasn't been any street
No,
protests.
Imran Khan called them off for 6 days. I think today is the sixth day, or
So we're
tomorrow is the
coming
sixth
up
day.
on,
Yeah,
and I
the
mean, it
deadline.
sounds like if they're doing these electoral commission manipulations, they are probably gonna announce elections. I mean, they
They'll
wouldn't
probably
change all the
meet sometime. They
yeah.
will, in any case, do them after November, because November is the date when the chief of army staff is supposed to be appointed, the new chief of army staff. Nobody can have elections before that.
Because the new government would be able to influence that under the
Yes,
constitution.
of course. We won't even discuss that.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Well, I mean, we could probably come back again,
Yeah.
you
For
know, soon.
updates, monthly Pakistan update.
Yeah, we might have to do we might have to do a frequent Pakistan update, because
Okay.
it does seem to me like I think we started organizing this in the middle of the
Yeah.
protests,
Yeah.
and they did kind of, because they were sort of called off. I think,
Yeah.
it seemed like maybe we would have been in a really explosive situation
Yeah, yeah,
by now.
we could have been. They were
Yeah,
called off, and they were at the tip of the
yeah,
way the government was behaving aggressively, the way army was called, that it was on the tip of bloodshed.
yeah.
Now, for a week, they have been called off, but let's see how it happens, because I don't see this fizzling out. And if Imran Khan goes back, this then might go back few months, but these are waves that will keep coming back till
Yeah.
that the thing that the basic issue in Pakistani society, the basic issue is resolved.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, just I guess we could leave on that, in the sense that there was some quote. Imran Khan was on TV and he said something like, my priority is the 50 million
Yeah,
Pakistanis who are below the poverty line, and I'm not here to solve every problem or
he was
something.
talking about like Russia and Ukraine and all of these global wars and foreign policy issues that he has been pulled into. And he's saying that, he could have gotten cheaper oil from Russia, maybe cheaper wheat to
Mhm.
give some relief to his people, the people who voted him in for exactly this reason.
Yeah. Well, yeah, none of this is going away. So let's let's check in again in a few weeks.
Okay. Thanks for having me, Justin.
Thank you.